Well, hello. I am in a new place. I have moved. I am also currently doing a master's degree, which, changes a lot of things about my life because when I started this channel, I was doing a gap year and I was only a part-time nanny. So I had a lot of free time and, my life just looked completely different. And now I am a full-time grad student, which is something for sure. More on that later.
History teacher who, looking back, is either the most iconic teacher or questionable. Because
yesterday I picked up my first book in literally like a month or more, possibly, with like all the moving stuff, with all the logistics, all the stress on my mind. I just never could get myself to like calm down enough to pick up a book or even to desire picking one up. And yesterday was the first time I had that feeling sincerely, like from my heart of hearts. I was like, I want to read a book right now. And for some reason it was The Secret History. This is very specific. I've been meaning to get to this for years. I've never read this. I know, I'm a fraud. I am a fake. I actually even have 2 copies of this book, which is ridiculous. I've been so averse to reading this book, even though I've been wanting to read this book, but the fact that it's like possibly the most popular book on all of like book media, social media, is just really, just puts me off. I don't know why. I have such a contrarian attitude about books that are way too popular. And I don't know, I just hate being told what to read, and the amount of times I've been told to read this have just kind of made me want to read it less. I guess it had to come of my own volition and just kind of organically, and then I would pick it up with pleasure. And so I finally picked it up. I'm only 50 pages in, but let me just say a couple of things. One, the writing is so sexy. The writing is so delicious. I'm like, okay, that's gorgeous. Live, love, laugh. I always thought this book was about like linguistics. Like I thought this book was about ancient Greek like language translations. Like I don't know why. It's actually more about classics, which is actually a domain that I'm super interested in. Like absolutely love classics, and I love that it combines like things that I'm super interested in, things that I took classes in my bachelor's degree. I took some of my best courses were about ancient Greek literature, and just amazing. And I just didn't know that this was like a lot about that, and a lot about exploring like ancient Greek ideals about like human life, human condition, like the nature of man, and like, I don't know, all these topics that come up a lot in ancient Greek philosophy, but obviously also come up a lot in like the tragedians and the poets. And I'm just finding that incredibly fun and interesting to explore, and just so fun because I actually know a lot about it. So it's like, oh, I know exactly what they're talking about right now. These are things I love to discuss. I love to talk about. I feel like there's so much to be gleaned from doing a study of classical thought, like ideas that were kind of present in ancient Greek philosophers as well as ancient Greek tragedians. I think there's a lot there. It's just super fun and stimulating. And if you know anything about like ancient Greek, I would say not only like the literature, but like the themes that would come up, and just generally ancient Greek thought. And if you're interested in that at all, there's a lot about that here, and that's so fun. I feel like I'm learning stuff while also just kind of being pandered to, because it kind of feels like someone wrote this just for me to find interesting, which is ridiculous but super fun. I know it's like a thriller, like there is like a murder mystery or something like that going on, but I'm not gonna lie, like the intellectual stuff is super fun. I'm eating it up. I will update you guys further on this. I have a couple of other books that I feel like are gonna be good for the fall. I'm just gonna share like 3 of them with you because why not? This is Ali Smith's Autumn. I think this has September vibes because it's autumn, and I've never read Ali Smith, but we've owned this book, like it's been on our shelves for a long time, and every time I've been wanting to read this book, it was a different season. Like it was the wrong season. Every time I've thought about picking this up, it was the wrong season. So it's finally autumn. It's the right season. I don't really read a lot of contemporary literary fiction, so I feel like that's something I need to like fix or like figure out for myself, because I actually really tend not to gravitate towards contemporary literary fiction. I find the descriptions of these books often really uninteresting and boring. Like I haven't read Sally Rooney. I just find the idea of her books just so deeply uninteresting that I just haven't picked them up, but I know that she's like a really good writer, so I should probably kind of get on that and keep up with it. And I know Ali Smith, this book specifically, was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. So, obviously it's good, and it is worth it, and I think valuable to kind of do a little bit of more modern reading so that I'm like aware of the current literary trends. I don't know. I do think it's important. I just find it really uninteresting. I find the fact that a lot of these books are like character studies or like very heavily thematic and not at all anything else. I struggle with this a bit. I don't find it. I think a better book would have more beef to it, more steak to it. Does that make sense? I think a book that can do character work, good character work, and or good thematic work, so more abstract stuff, while actually having like a firm feeling, like while having a good center. I think that's really important. At least for me, that's something I look for. I've kind of tried reading, or I think I'm basing a lot of this opinion on that one book I read by Sheila Heti, which was like the worst thing I've ever read in my life, and I hate it, and it's still on my shelves. It's like the only book I've ever wanted to burn, and it's one of those books that's like trying to be super creative with how it tells its story, and I think that there's a time and a place, and I do think that some people really make it work, but otherwise it may just run the risk of just being pretentious bullshit, maybe. I don't know. That's so mean. That's like the strongest opinion I've ever shared on this channel so far. Next is The Haunting of Hill House. This is like my favorite show. I wouldn't say it's my #1 favorite show because I don't think I could choose a #1 favorite show, but it's definitely in my top 3 or my top 5. I love The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan. I've seen it only twice, but like I love it, and I never rewatch things. So the fact that I've seen it twice says a lot. I've never read Shirley Jackson. I feel like if I love this, I'm really gonna find something that I really enjoy. Like her other books sound very compelling to me and very interesting to me, and I just kind of want to get into her. So this is the book of hers that I own, and also the book of hers that I've been meaning to read for such a long time, and also has very fall vibes. And I'm also really curious if I do get freaked out by books, because movies can really freak me out, but I don't know if books can. We're gonna find out. I've heard that this is really freaky. I have heard that many times. Next is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I brought this back with me from Aruba, like from the summer vacation that I took. I've had this book for years. I've just never actually read it, and I picked it up during the summer, but then I realized, oh my gosh, this has like great autumn vibes, so then I put it down. I'm actually insane. I don't know why I act like this. This is like an urban fantasy, but like a historical urban fantasy, which is so interesting. I just kind of want to read something with plot, you know? Perhaps this one. What do you guys think? I remember V. Schwab was incredibly well regarded on BookTube back in my day. Like her books, her writing was very well regarded. At the time she was like coming out with new like fantasy series and that kind of stuff, like adult fantasy. And I think they're all urban fantasy, but everybody on BookTube was like super into it. Like she was just such a great writer, and so it's definitely a writer I want to experience. So the life update is that I am starting a 2-year research master's in philosophy, which is kind of a long time coming because I was in high school just completely obsessed. I took philosophy in high school, and then I did my bachelor's. I did like a combination type bachelor's where I could do political science, literature and classics, and philosophy. And I mostly studied philosophy. Like I focused my curriculum as much on philosophy as I could. So it was kind of like a long time coming that this would be my path, I think. However, you know, as an overthinker and just as someone who is prone to having fig tree thoughts, I wasn't really ready to make that decision, so I took a gap year. Like, therefore I took a gap year, and so now I've kind of settled on it, and I am sort of dedicated to, at the very least, the research masters. Not necessarily like a life in research. I don't know about that yet, but I'll definitely find out, I'm sure, during this masters. And in the case that I decide that that's not for me, I will just be doing whatever else next. I don't know. I feel that I will figure it out somehow. Last year during my gap year, I did a lot of like independent philosophy reading to kind of catch up a bit with like some primary texts that I haven't worked on yet, or hadn't really come across during my undergrad. Especially since my undergrad was interdisciplinary, I didn't do like strict philosophy. Like I think a lot of people come at it with like a 4-year bachelor's degree in philosophy, and then in that way, I guess, I don't really know, but I would imagine that you have like a much better basis for doing philosophy at this level than I do, because I didn't have that kind of foundation. But during my gap year, I made sure to kind of like stay on top of my philosophy and just do some readings, closed readings, which to me are like the best. So like you have a primary text, you have you, and you have a pen, and it's just you and the primary text. This I find to be like a really good exercise in like comprehension and critical thinking and just like understanding in general. And just you kind of tend to feel your brain stretch for the new information or for the new like writing style that you haven't previously encountered. I find it just very satisfying to do. However, now that I'm doing all these like academic readings for my courses, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of reading, it's very rigorous. So it's very much the case that I'm like, I don't really know if I want to read philosophy outside of my classes, which is not the best thing ever, because I do need to be doing that for my own satisfaction and to be able to actually like develop my research interests and my background knowledge in philosophy that is definitely underdeveloped. Like I need to be doing that. But I feel so like tired after like a 4-hour class of talking about philosophy in such a philosophical way, because I just haven't ever experienced it this way before. Like it's so precise, it's so specific, it's so honestly mind melting. And so after the 4-hour class, I'm just like, I'm okay. I don't need anything, you know, I'm fine. There's a lot of books that I haven't read that I really want to read and that I think are very important for me to have read. And so there is like personal reading that I want to be doing and need to be doing. I just need to figure out like a system. During the gap year to kind of do that and keep up with philosophy and all that kind of stuff, I would do fiction. Like I would always be reading some kind of fictional novel, whether it be on my e-reader or like a physical book. And then usually, given who I am, I would tend toward reading way more than one book at a time. If you follow me on Goodreads, I think it's quite overwhelming when you can see like I'm reading 20 books at the same time. It's actually horrific. I need to work on that. But I would be reading like 5 books actively on the side, and then I would be doing always like one primary work in philosophy. So I would just have one, like I choose one, and that's the one I'm reading, and sometimes it would take a couple of months. Like depending on the book that you're reading, it can really take that long. It's so intense. It's not casual. So it takes a long time to do it, but it's super worth doing. And that's what I did a lot in my gap year. Like I brushed up on some Plato, Descartes. I don't really remember. Did I do anything else actually? Now I'm like, damn, maybe I didn't read Nietzsche. I just read whatever I wanted. And that's fine. I don't think I need like a method to the madness, but right now I also need to figure out how to like start reading for pleasure again, plus reading more philosophy outside of the classroom. That's gonna be not so easy. That's gonna need a system, I think. All right, so I think that's it for all my blabbering in this video. Also kind of thinking of doing some more vlog style videos, because I kind of want to capture a little bit more of my life this year now that I'm a master's student. Like I feel like this time is very short, and I am going to appreciate having videos to watch back on just to kind of like reminisce. And so it's kind of something I want to do. It's also just really something I love to watch on YouTube. Like I really love like slice of life vlog videos. I especially love them when there's like also books involved. So I don't know, I'm kind of thinking of doing that. I don't really have a camera. Like I film on my iPad. I have a broken front camera, which makes it hard to like use my phone, but the back camera works. So maybe I can kind of put something together. I don't know, something I'm thinking about. We'll see.